Personal finance expert and MeVest founder Lesley-Anne Scorgi joining us on Canada Now. And Lesley-Anne, we're going to talk about a couple of your latest articles. The first of which is your latest. It's in the Star, it discusses 5 financial to-dos to check off your list for summer.
That's right. And I mean, thinking of summer, the last thing on your mind is to prepare financially. But summertime spending historically has actually outpaced Christmas time spending, which is why, we want to pay attention to what happens in the summer months. Now, I get it. The pandemic kind of threw a wrench into most people's summer plans. So maybe you're not going to festivals, you're not having big barbecues, or maybe you are, but it's just with yourself. I think you get what I'm getting at, which is this summer, your financial picture is probably going to be a little bit different than previous summers. But we are still seeing in the data coming through that there is a big uptick in spending. So my first piece of advice is to really take stock of a little checklist, take stock of where you're at right now as part of your 5-point summer checklist.
Yeah. And you think about it like this summer. I mean, I guess it depends on where you live, but here where we live, Lesley-Anne, in Toronto here, or in the area, we don't have social obligations this summer, like last summer. So there's a saving opportunity here.
There's absolutely a saving opportunity. So when I think about where you are at, taking stock of your current money situation, number one, be aware this summer presents an opportunity for possibly the average family to save well over $1,000. That's what's on the table here. The second thing is that you may have noticed that while you've been kind of dialing down your spending, your credit score might actually be increasing. So if you haven't looked in a while, my advice is get online and have a look at your credit score. So this is a great way to say, pulse check, here's how I'm doing with my credit score. And guess what? It should get even better over the course of the summer if you're managing your credit really, really carefully. While you're doing that and you're kind of reviewing, how do I want this summer to look? Do have a peek at what's happening. Like, how much are we earning? Especially if you're an entrepreneur, or maybe you work like a shift work and you're not sure how many shifts you have. Like, what does your income look like? What do your expenses coming up look like? And are you doing a reasonable job at staying on budget? That's kind of the pulse check, which is the first checkpoint on your 5-point checklist.
Yeah. And in looking ahead to the summer, just because you might not have these social obligations, there might be some fun summer activities that you want to enjoy. And they don't have to break the bank. They can be these little things that you do with your family.
So me, I am expecting again, and I can't get enough ice cream, right? So some of these small things are putting a big smile on my face. But part 2 of the checklist is have a look at what your favorite summer activities are and how do you want to fit that into your cash flow. I'm going to share with you one of the fun things we're going to do, which is we're in the next year going to need to buy a new car. And so we've decided what a fun thing to do to cash in some of our loyalty points and actually rent a couple of different vehicles that we're interested in. And we're going to go and test drive them both of us are from Alberta. We are recent transplants to Ontario. So it's a huge opportunity for us to kind of explore at almost no cost because we'll be cashing in those points, but it's going to be a fun way to test out vehicles and get out of the city for a day.
Yeah, no kidding. What a great idea too. My goodness. I mean, it's financially sound, but it's also a great idea. I wish not that I have any qualms over the last vehicle I purchased, but nevertheless, that would have been a fun activity for a couple of weeks to just, let's hop in the car. Let's go give this thing a test drive and see how it works. So
right. And it's not like we have anything else to do.
Exactly. Let's just go for a drive. By the way, I want to get back to the ice cream. So your budget, does your budget list look like, all right, mortgage, cable, phone, the internet, ice cream. Is that what
Like
budget's
you
like?
you would laugh, Jeff, but our grocery bill this pregnancy has gone up. I'm not kidding you, 15%. And you know me, I'm all over the numbers.
Yeah,
So I know what's running through the household. And when I look at the when I look at the bills, it is ice cream, more ice cream. And also, like, when you're pregnant, you do tend to try to eat a little bit better, and it's just like volume. I eat more than my
yeah,
husband right now.
yeah. I know you guys do a lot of your grocery shopping online, but if you're going to the grocery store, I hope it's not you that's actually going. I hope
No.
it's your husband.
You know, what we do is like we have a risk management approach when it comes to our approach with groceries. Tim is the one that goes out. He's such a great husband. He goes all the time on behalf of us. And it's just to reduce the risk that hopefully, like, there's unfortunately more pregnant women in the ICU right now than there are pregnant women in
Oh, sure. Of course.
maternity wards. And so we're trying to be really careful. And I'm also happy to report that we've got our first shot of our vaccine a week ago. So
Nice.
we feel like we hit the lottery right now.
Yeah, good. I wasn't even thinking about the pandemic in terms of going grocery shopping. I was strictly thinking financial,
Financial.
just to save you guys money. So I hadn't even thought of
Jeff,
that.
if I went, we would be at least 15 to 20% additional, because like I'm like a Hoover vacuum when it comes to the ice cream, like the ice cream shelves
Yeah.
right now.
Don't get a second fridge. I don't know if you have two fridges, but
Oh no.
we have a second fridge, and it's honestly like we fill it up every week. And we try to heed your advice of use what you have. So I buy a little less when I go out there, but in terms of buying frozen stuff, I'm like, well, we'll bank it and we'll have it and it'll be there. So, and I actually try to keep the freezer full so we can't fit the ice cream, so we can't buy too much of it. Now, in your plans moving forward with the summer, it has to include spending money on what is essential. We're not talking ice cream here. We're talking about what is essential, what really isn't that fun at all, like repairs to stuff that you might need to do this summer.
Absolutely. So this is just basic budgeting. If you need to fix a couple of pieces of wood in your deck, or you've got to repair your eaves troughs, like, listen, I know this stuff isn't fun, but you do need to bake it into your plan going forward. And this actually leads to my fourth point on the checklist, which is, while you are out there doing some of your own repairs, that you're doing as much maintenance DIY as you can. So like, a little bit of elbow grease, literally greasing up the wheels on your bicycle, and fixing doors that are hanging off their hinges, or whatever is happening in your home. It is an excellent opportunity for you while you're at home to do what you can to maintain everything that you do own, versus going out and buying like a new bicycle or a new stroller or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and you'll have two kids soon, so you guys will certainly know what it's like to have to fix things on a regular basis. Though I've got two boys, and you won't have two boys, right? So
That's right.
might be a little bit different. So if you have debt, going into the summer, if you have debt, it's an opportunity to eradicate it. Yeah, at least that could be a goal. And if you don't have debt, hey, stack up on savings, really get your savings account going.
Totally. This is a great summer to just say, like, I'm going to get rid of one or two super pesky little debts that just seem to not be going away. And like what I said at the beginning of our conversation, what's at stake for the average Canadian family right now is like a good $1,000 of savings is what the research shows that you could come out with at the end of this summer, just by laying low financially and physically, because you kind of have to right now. So the whole checklist is designed to bring visibility to your finances in this next couple of months, and also put a smile on your face, have some fun, but be prudent in the process.
Yeah. Well, and I my wife and I are looking very far ahead, because it might be next year, or it might be the year after that, where we are going to do a pretty big renovation in our house. But you're looking at like this summer, in terms of setting up financial goals, looking to do so like for the end of September, not looking too far ahead, but certainly looking beyond the summer.
Absolutely. Like when we do goal setting, keep your goals to a minimum right now. So like maybe up to 2 goals. And my advice is like, don't extend them too long. There's way too many variables out in the market right now. Like we don't actually know when everyone's going to get vaccinated. We don't know how the economy is going to respond to the vaccination rollout. Hopefully really positive. But if I were you, when it comes to goal setting for this summer, it's all about a little bit of debt reduction combined with some added savings. And that is like a winning set of goals for you.
We didn't speak last week, Lesley-Anne, so I wanted to look back to your previous article in the Star, which discussed being financially savvy for making the choice of skipping the purchase of a starter home for the next size up. Like, are new homeowners trying to make sure that they aren't priced out of the market in about 5 years or so?
So that is exactly what's happening right now. It's a pretty frightening trend. If you are like a first time or even second time homeowner, but this is really for first time homeowners. We're seeing first time homeowners like leapfrog over the starter home, and they're like anteing up the amount of debt in order to get into the next level home. So what's on the table here is they're afraid that if they don't get into the bigger, more expensive home today, that they'll be priced out of the market in 5 years to 7 years down the road. So research shows that like most families will move from their starter home after that 5 to 7 year period of time. And that's the frightening point for so many people. We're seeing this huge push in the market with low interest rates, huge demand for homes, like semi-detached and detached homes, and it's just driving prices up to very frightening point.
Well, and you got to be careful because you don't want to be house poor. It's the last thing any homeowner would want to be. So what is, for those that don't know, what is a stress test, and how can someone do one of those on their own?
Okay, so a stress test, I'm not going to get into the math, but the banking system in Canada, they run tests on whether or not you can afford to buy the home and also experience an increase in the interest rates. So how prepared are you to like handle a really tough situation? They do all of that using their algorithms at the bank, but I got my own stress test. So like, this is the common sense stress test. When you are going out to buy a home, your best friend is a budget template. And honestly, you can actually get one of these on the CMHC website, or you can get them from my website. We have budget templates for free up there on the blog. So download one. It doesn't matter which one you use. Your number one priority here is to actually put as clear a picture numbers into that budget template to see if you, and if you're buying with somebody else, your partner, can actually afford to have this home. So I'm not talking about guesswork here.
Yeah.
I'm talking about like you speaking to your realtor and your banker to find out exactly what the utilities would be, exactly what the mortgage would be, exactly what your income is going to be. So not like the income you hope to have. This is the income that you have today. And all of this it's called like mock budgeting. And if you have that, like when you're looking at the numbers in your face, and if you have that like terrifying feeling where literally like your armpits are getting sweaty and your pulse is racing, that is really the sign, like, don't do it. Just take your foot off the gas.
Yeah, and you give some tips as well on, boosting savings, having some extra cash, upgrade your job, or find some extra income to increase your borrowing capacity. If you can work more, go for it. If you can sell some stuff to boost your savings, do it. If there's inheritance within your family to ask for, you might want to get a head start on that. But you also throughout consider moving to a different city or area.
Totally. So the one perk about being a renter is like you can kind of go anywhere. And when we look across Canada, though there's a big surge in prices, not everywhere is unaffordable. There are places in Canada that you can live where it's still super affordable, and you should look at that. You should look like, what do the jobs look like? Could I have a better quality of life? One of my friends just moved out of the GTA to like 2 hours away, and I'm not kidding you, their house is twice as big for half the amount of money, and they have a great quality of life. So it's out there. You just have to be willing to kind of look around.
I'm in Toronto, and I'm more and more willing. This pandemic has certainly changed my outlook on where to live, and now I've even started. I thought I was going to live in Toronto forever, and I very well might, but now it's got me thinking. Well, maybe I can live anywhere. Maybe I'll move somewhere else. And you mentioned renters. You talk about, for those considering jumping from renting to owning a home, you might want to consider renting a little bit longer. You also suggested make sure that you are aware of what co-signing really means.
Totally. So here's what I see in my community is that when people are running into these financial barriers, like, how am I going to afford this? They often turn to somebody in their family to co-sign on the mortgage for them. But the scoop is this: you are the one who still has to come up with the money every month. So the reason you're being declined is because you legit can't afford it. So a co-signer is somebody who guarantees that you can, and like, you have to have a game plan for that. What I will say is that co-signing is super common with those who have businesses, and that's fine, right? Because the banks are harder on small business owners, which isn't great. But that could be like I would say the exception to the rules if you've got a good cash flowing business, but you just don't have the history there. Just know that you're on the hook for it all.
Yeah, exactly. This is your house. You gotta own it. Check out mevest.ca, personal finance expert, Mevest founder, Hammer and Hank's mom, Lesley-Anne Scorgi. Always a pleasure, my friend. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Jeff. Take care.
All right. Thanks, Lesley-Anne.